Jury selection begins today in the trial of the former police officer charged in the fatal shooting of 20-year-old Daunte Wright, a young black man, back in April. Kimberly Potter, a 26-year-old police department veteran, was conducting a traffic stop on Wright, which led to an attempted arrest for an outstanding warrant. It happened in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, just outside of Minneapolis, close to where George Floyd was killed and during Derek Chauvin's trial. Potter says she mistook her gun for a taser when she shot Wright. BNC's chief legal analyst, Laura McNeal, joins us now. There's so much to unpack here. I remember you covering the Derek Chauvin murder trial and actually coming on the air with us to talk about this. And at the time, you're a very professional person, but this was emotional for you because of everything that you were dealing with, and then hearing about this on top of the Derek Chauvin trial. Take us back to that moment for us, if you can, and just describe what you were feeling at that time.
You know, honestly, it was very emotional for me, Mike. What I felt was this real extreme sense of hopelessness, because I'm thinking, here we are trying to get justice for George Floyd, and now another young man has lost his life, a 20-year-old kid. I mean, it was just this, I can't really describe it except immense feelings of hopelessness. Are we ever going to get to a point where our young men are safe, our black men are safe in communities? And that's really what I felt. But it was just also extreme heartbreak for the community members there in Minneapolis, because, you know, when you're there that long, you get to know people on a personal level. You get to understand the vibe of that community. And, you know, my heart just dropped for them.
Yeah, we were relieved when we got the Derek Chauvin verdict, relieved when we got the Ahmaud Arbery verdict. Now we need more justice for Daunte Wright, which will never get justice because this man will never be back with his family. But let's talk about Kim Potter and what she's facing right now. Walk us through these charges and kind of describe how the prosecution has to kind of make sure that they get these charges to stick.
Yeah, so, Mike, I have to give it to the prosecution. They're very smart, the way they selected these charges. So it's basically manslaughter, first-degree and second-degree manslaughter. And what's wonderful about the way these charges have been filed is that they don't have to prove intent. That's very important. They were actually having a little okay at the corral fight yesterday between the prosecution and defense, arguing about jury instructions when we haven't even picked a jury yet. And that just shows the defense knows that the case, or as they say, the odds are not in their favor. And so they're very concerned. So with these two manslaughter charges, the first-degree manslaughter charges carries up to 15 years, the second degree up to 10 years, potentially, that Potter will face. And all they're trying to prove is that her behavior was reckless. She took unreasonable risk. And because of that reckless behavior, it resulted in the death of Daunte Wright. Well, the video shows that clearly. So, you know, I think that on the front end, the prosecution definitely has the upper hand in this case.
Yeah, well, you would think that with the video, but obviously we've seen time and time again, and once again, it worked out for George Floyd. It worked out for Ahmaud Arbery, not in a literal sense, but obviously when it came to being in the courtroom. But we've seen videos before that we thought, okay, well, this is an open and shut case, and it hasn't been. You know the courtroom. How can the prosecution make this, even with this video, prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she was going not necessarily for a taser, but for her gun? Because that's what they have to prove here.
Mike, you're right. Even though we've had videos, for instance, with Eric Gardner, that didn't make a difference. We saw that the police officer literally walked away. And so what this prosecutor has to do to make sure this doesn't happen again is that she has to make sure that she establishes for the jury, you know what, this was unreasonable. Someone with Kim Potter's experience, you're telling me she doesn't know the difference between a gun and her taser? There's a difference in weight. They're on different sides. It's not like she was a rookie that just got on the force and happened to make a mistake. You know, she was she was 10 years, approximately 10 years into the force. It's not reasonable for us to believe her version of the story, which is that she mistakenly picked the gun. So they really have to hone into the jury. This is unreasonable. Don't buy this story. Use your common sense. Your common sense will tell you this was not a mistake, and this is a seasoned officer, and she knew what she was doing the day she took the life of Daunte Wright. That's the narrative the prosecution needs to push to make sure we don't have another Eric Gardner situation.
Yeah, well, they got to get the jury first, and they got to get the right makeup of the jury or whatnot as well. So that's going to be part of the key part of their case for the prosecution. So the jurors, they'll be asked many of the same questions as the jurors in the Chauvin trial. Why is that?
Yeah, they are. What they're trying to make sure is that the jurors aren't coming to the jury stand with preconceived notions. They're asking them questions like, did you participate in any Black Lives Matter protests? Did you hear about Daunte Wright? What are your impressions, positive, negative? They want to make sure these jurors can come to the table and be able to be fair, impartial, and neutral, kind of have a clean slate. And so that's why they're asking these questions. They don't want a juror come in there who's already made up their mind. So this is expected, nothing new. The question is, everyone is wondering, how diverse will this jury be? Will it be as diverse as George Floyd's? We know that based on the research, that can really make a difference in the outcome.
Yeah, let me ask you a question on that too when it comes to jury, because we understand they're going to be partially sequestered, right? Once they select the jury. If you're somebody that's part of the jury pool, how does that affect the jury pool and the attitudes of the jury pool? Because sometimes, like, I want to still live my life outside of this. I don't want to be a part of this whole, I can't look at television, I can't speak to my family or whatnot. How does that affect the jury pool when you know going into it that you're going to be partially sequestered?
A lot of people will tank it, to be honest. They'll purposely sabotage and answer the questions in a way where they're not picked. They're like, hey, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not going to stop watching my show. I won't name the shows on television, but I will. La Brea, I'm not going to not watch, my reality TV, let somebody else do it. So it can impact them in that way, to be quite frank.
Yeah, and don't watch Law and Order because it might pop up. It's been reality. It looks just like what's happening in real life there.